Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Fun topic. Let's do it. Postmen, couriers of Reddit. What's the strangest state that anyone's ever answered the door in? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Naked dude, soaking wet, wearing nothing but a Cracker Barrel apron. First time, okay. Second time, something's going on here. FedEx driver. Didn't happen at the front because the customer asked me to bring all her packages to the back door whenever she ordered something, which was fine with me. I go back there one day to drop off her packages on the back deck, and she's full naked trying to tan. It was definitely awkward. I was breastfeeding my baby, heard a knock at the door, put my boobs away, answered the door. Afterwards, I looked down, realized one boob is still out. Have to hand it to the guy. He didn't look down once. One lady opened the door and pissed her pants in front of me while she signed, and her boyfriend, not so discreetly, filmed it from behind her. When I was 13, I was sent to the neighbors to get my brother and tell him to come home. The guy opened the door naked, glitter coming out of his pubes. He had a towel covering his goods. I asked him if my brother was there, and thankfully he said no. I am not a postal worker, but I did used to be a public defender. I once had a client who got into the habit of always greeting his postal worker and the UPS and FedEx delivery drivers completely naked and with a fully erect penis. That is also why he was my client. I had him plea out. Nothing too weird. The strangest reaction, though, was one time I was delivering cremated remains, which have a giant sticker saying that on the box. The dude opened the door and his face lit up like I was bringing him a cake for his birthday. He even yelled back into the house to say Fred was here. I mean, he was excited to see Fred. Who wouldn't be, in one way or another? I had a guy who always waited for me in his tighty-whities and flung the door open when I'd bring the parcel to the door, saying, "I caught you again, mailman." Also had a very nice older guy who had a skin condition, so he never wore clothes while at home. He'd always answer the door and tell me to hold on while he put his pants on to sign for his medicine, while standing in front of the window, next to the door. On a stretcher, I worked for UPS and had to deliver to a sketchy quadplex apartment. Apparently, the lady got stabbed to death early that morning. I didn't even realize I was walking into a crime scene. Did door-to-door sales for about a week when I was young and broke. Had an attractive woman answer the door wearing nothing but a very tiny bikini bottom. I thought I was about to get lucky, but it turned out her husband dared her to do it. They thought I was selling Jesus and wanted to F with me. Still, I got an eyeful of the nicest tits I'd seen to that point in my life. Not a postman or courier, but the one answering the door. In college, I slept over at my boyfriend at the time's apartment. He went to class in the morning and I stayed and slept in. His roommate wasn't supposed to be back until 1. I showered at like 11 and walked out naked to go back to the bedroom and get clothes. Heard a knock on the door and thought it was his roommate back early, and I yelled, "Don't come in unless you want to see my boobs." Yeah, it wasn't the roommate. It was maintenance. An old man voice replied very awkwardly, "No thank you, I'll come back another time." TLDR. First date picking her up, family is nudist and not shy about it. No warning given. About 11 years ago, I went to pick up a girl for a date. This date had been a suggestion by a mutual friend of ours. Walking up to the door, I noticed the main door was open with only the glass storm door closed. I rang the doorbell, having full view all the way to the back of the house into the living room. Her brother, who was maybe 7 at the time, comes running down the hallway naked as the day he was born. Then immediately after comes Dad, also naked. Then I hear a female voice from upstairs, and a head pokes out over a balcony. It was the girl's mom. Now, I can't fully confirm this, but her shoulders and what I could see of her chest were also naked. Then my date comes down the stairs dressed. This was my first and so far only interaction with a nudist family. Warning would have been nice. I mean, I guess this is possible. If it is, as you wrote, very inappropriate. I mean, you can be a nudist all you want, but be decent around people for the first time at least. I don't like that one. UPS driver here. I delivered to a housing complex for the mentally unstable, and I got chased with a knife the instant the door opened. The staff said she's not allowed anything pointy, and they're very sorry. The spot had the worst state funding imaginable, and everyone was in shambles and felt bad, but make sure they get their meds, please. My husband owns a high-rise window cleaning business. Every year, we have a few customers who believe they're doing the Lord's work by exposing themselves to the window washers. Not quite answering the door, but close enough. Effing hell, I'm probably too late for this. You're not. But let me tell you an insane story. I moved into a share house with two other people when I was 21, living the dream, lots of parties, and pretty soon after moving in, I became F-buddies with one housemate. Very laid back and a little weird. She literally used to tell me how her Tinder dates had gone whilst cleaning my jizz off her face. I promise this isn't some horny story though. It's just an important bit of context. One day, I'd make some cash doing a gig, close-up magic, and called her up asking if she fancied a few celebratory drinks and a movie evening. It was a pretty early, cause it was a lunchtime gig for the Jubilee in England. She was all for it, so that's what we did. Of course, we didn't get fully dressed afterwards, so I'm naked, and she's putting on a t-shirt and pair of my boxers, and we're an hour into Memento, and 20 minutes post-shag when the door goes. Effing policeman there when she answered the door. Is Steve in? Other housemate, they asked. No, she says. Steve was out a couple days, hence me being naked on a sofa. I start looking for clothes, but there are none in the lounge, and I'd have to walk past the front door to get to the bedroom. Police hear me rustling, assume I'm Steve, and bust into the flat. I get arrested on the spot and handcuffed naked. Housemate gets my license to prove it's not me, and I'm let go. So they leave, and it was so surreal we both just start laughing. The police were so embarrassed by the end of it, we were all kind of laughing together. After all, the apologies. We all saw the ludicrousness of the situation. So of course, when the door knocked again a few minutes later, I assumed it was the police again, and they'd forgotten something. So I answered bollock naked as the day I was born and said, "Are you here to pin me down again?" to the Amazon delivery guy. P.S. Turns out Steve was trying to meet up with underage girls, hence the search warrant. I used to work for a water district, and we had to go into people's homes to troubleshoot issues. Women trying to seduce us is a thing. It happens regularly enough. They would answer the door naked in a towel. We had a list of homes where we had to have 2 workers to respond to their calls for legal reasons if they tried to make false accusations. If you call your utilities and 2 workers respond, then you are on a list. I used to deliver mail when I was 19. I had this old lady answer the door in a robe and a glass of wine in her hand. She proceeded to move her robe to the side, exposing a titty, and invite me inside to have some wine with her. I politely declined and ran back to the vehicle. Well, at least she didn't hide her intentions. You didn't do it. Good for you. I'm not a delivery person, but I have a story. Several years ago, I had some acid. It takes about 2 to 3 hours for me to begin to feel acid. I took some acid one morning on my day off. Soon after, I realized I was out of weed. I used it to treat nightmares, so I placed a delivery order real quick. They said they'll be there in 45 minutes. Okay, cool. Cut to 2.5 effing hours later. Weed guy still hasn't shown up, and I'm barely clinging to the earth. Every molecule of blood in my body is preparing to do the cha-cha slide. Sweat is pouring down my back. Because of medicinal laws, it had to be me that received the weed, so I wait. Finally, the doorbell rings. I thank God and answer it. It's the weed dude. Except, it's a summer day, and all my neighbors are outside, and now watching the weed dude deliver weed to my house. So I'm standing on my porch, counting out 20s, sweat rolling down my body in bullets as the air starts to shimmer with summer heat. Me, sweating output increases to Niagara levels. I'm sick to my stomach. I'm trying to make small talk with the weed man, count accurately, and stay in my body at the same time. All my neighbors are staring at me, handling fistfuls of cash, buying drugs, and I'm on acid. At one point, my brain feels like it is swelling and raising over everything else. I see the top of my own head for a moment. I give the weed man money, and he gives me the bag, and he goes to count the money. I'm already running back to the house and close the door. just as I completely leave the planet. And he's like, "Hey, your change." And I'm like, "Keep it, man. I don't need it where I'm going." Used to deliver food, and guys constantly came to the door naked and would do the whole hide their bottom half with the door while snaking their naked top half around the door to do business with you. Even more surprising was that on Friday or Saturday night, I'd always get at least one or two deliveries for women that they were obviously getting ready to go out to a bar or club. They would come to the door in bra, panties, and sometimes stockings, and be totally relaxed and not nervous. I mean, cool, but at a certain point it kind of makes you feel like they really don't look at delivery guys as actual people. Not a postman, but service industry to customers' houses. Vehicle repairs. Pulled up to a guy's house. Car is in the driveway. Call him. No answer. Go up to the door in the carport and knock. No answer. Not abnormal for my job, especially first thing in the morning. Call again, and he answers and says he works nights and not to call him again, and that someone should help in a bit. Just sit tight. Walk up to the carport door and knock again. Middle-aged woman answers the door, wearing nothing but the clear shower curtain liner from a bathtub, rings or hooks and all, wrapped around her. Must have been brand new because it was perfectly clear and not obscuring anything at all. Stand on the doorway, hanging the keys from her finger, like your typical genre-specific movie that I'm sure you'll all jump to in your head by now, but just wait. She says her man works nights and is always tired during the day when she's awake. I mean, I was in shock. Couldn't tell if it was real or not. A joke? They're doing it on purpose. Whatever. Replied sheepishly, "Well, that sucks," and grabs the keys. Give her the time frame for the work. About 30 minutes later, while working on the car in the carport with my head under the dash, I hear the door open behind me and the shuffle of the plastic. What the F? She still hasn't put on clothes? So I didn't catch her in a situation. Has to be purposeful. Walks up behind me and asks if I'm thirsty and hands me a soda water. I turn around while still sitting on my leg under the dash to a face full of some 70s bush. I mean, like uncomfortably close. Crabs could have jumped to my beard. Still wrapped up in a clear shower curtain with the hooks and all. Well, barely wrapped at this point. Thank her spin around and shove my head so far under the dash I could have turned the steering wheel with my teeth from below. Door closes. Wrap up. Sit in my car for a bit debating on what to do. Full well knowing she's probably still naked and I'd be facing a not very attractive late 40s, early 50s woman again. Knock on the door, and she answers fully nude in high heels. Says something like, "I can't wait to wake up my man. He will be upset." And, "Can you give me a demo of the work?" And something to the tune of, "Come on in, pizza delivery style movie." Work had been fully paid for prior. Told her to step outside to show her, which she did with no curtain, and by the way I couldn't see the curtain inside the door at all, so it had been put away someplace. Showed her the work, handed her the keys, locked the door, and she proclaimed one more time about how heavy a sleeper he was, and he wouldn't care about the work I did. As the door closed on the house, I set the car alarm that was in the car off by banging the window and walked off to my car and drove away. Got a message a couple hours later from the owner of the car asking if his old lady had been weird and wanting to know what happened. She said I had been rude to her, etc. Never spoke to them again. Didn't even respond. I still could never fully understand the shower curtain. Like, deliberately chosen? Why? Was it a kink? Last semi-related side note. In the same small town I travel for work, I have multiple photos of people walking down the main road in clear shower curtains. None are the same person, and none are the same lady from the story. Just random shower curtainville.